Let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to our County Coordinator State Grant Application webinar. I'm going to start with our agenda. So we did our introduction between all of us. We will intro the California Fire Safe Council and the Grants Clearinghouse, go over the grant program overview and eligibility, go over the grant application, selection, and award process, discuss how to apply, and talk about how to stay connected with the California Fire Safe Council and our grants and programs. And then we will end with a Q&A session. So you should come out of this webinar with a thorough understanding of the entire grant process, how to apply and how to make sure that your application is the best that it can be to be selected for this program. I wanted to start it with some acknowledgements. This grant program and publication are funded in full by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, as part of the California Climate Investments Program. And so with that, I wanted to send it over to Daniel. He did introduce himself, but give him time to say a few words about CAL FIRE and their part in this important project. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. And again, thank you everybody for taking the time this morning to talk about what really has been an exciting program and so many opportunities. As was mentioned, we are funding this program really as a way, as part of our overall strategy, to support local communities, to support your cities, your neighborhoods, your counties, in really kind of more of a grassroots effort. There's a lot of funding, there are a lot of programs coming from the state right now to address community preparedness, to address mitigation, to address wildfire resiliency. But what we really think that the value here of this program has already been, and hopefully can be to your county, is a way for you to support your local fire safe councils, your local fire districts, your HOAs and other organizations within your county, and figuring out what your local needs are. But then also for us to have a conduit through this position to keep your communities informed of when funding is available through our fire prevention grant program, when we release best practices documents and other important tools that really would help your communities. And so this has been already, again, a very important partnership, and we couldn't do it without all of you. A lot of money is being funneled in right now from the state of California through our wildfire and forest resilience action plan. We are addressing a number of elements, including forest health, wildland urban interface, fuel breaks, prescribed fire. But this is really in our core set, which is our community hardening and community preparedness. And so I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know for all of you, you'd probably rather hear how do you get the money. But I just wanted to thank you for your commitment. And on behalf of CAL FIRE, we look forward to working with you and working with our incredibly strong partner, the California Fire Safe Council, in helping make your communities a more resilient and more safer place to be when it comes to wildfire. So Julia, thanks for the time, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate you being here and being able to give that intro on behalf of CAL FIRE. So to move on, so we will talk quickly about the California Fire Safe Council and just give you some background on CFSC, which you will hear us refer to it as. I know the fire world loves its acronyms, but we refer to ourselves as CFSC. So the California Fire Safe Council is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It was founded approximately 20 years ago as a result of grassroots-driven movements for creating wildfire-ready and resilient communities focused on community organizing, outreach, planning, preparedness, and mitigation to reduce wildfire risk and increase individual and community resilience in the face of wildfire. So CFSC's mission is to be the leader in wildfire risk reduction and resiliency, and our vision is to end catastrophic wildfire. So CFSC essentially has two components or departments, if you will. The first being the Grants Clearinghouse, and second being programs and outreach. So the Grants Clearinghouse partners with federal, state, and private funding agencies to provide funding opportunities to fire safe councils, firewise communities, RCDs, cities, counties, tribes, and other wildfire mitigation practitioners who are working to address issues around catastrophic wildfire in California. So some of the funding partners, the historic funding and current funding partners of the California Fire Safe Council include the U.S. Forest Service, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, CAL FIRE, Cal OES, California Volunteers, VLM, PG&E, Southern California Edison, Farmers Insurance, and State Farm, among others. So those are just some of the partners that we work with to help address the goals of wildfire resiliency. The next department that we have is our programs and outreach team, and they really provide the programmatic and technical assistance to wrap our grantees with additional layers of support and help to ensure success in their projects and programs. So the goals and the goals of the programs and outreach team include community and organizational capacity building, regional network building and coordination for increased communication, collaboration, and peer learning. Our programs and outreach team offers amazing trainings and skill building through workshops, webinars, and events. They provide technical assistance in planning, preparedness, and outreach, communications, and mitigation. They help to share best and emerging practices, and they help to amplify your success stories. So the success stories of our partners on the ground. Next, I wanted to bring Brooke and Brittany back to talk about their role in the programs and outreach team as regional coordinators. And then they can kind of talk about this map a little bit and how we've divided our state. So Brooke, do you want to kick it off, or Brittany?
Sure. Thank you, Julia. I'm going to keep my camera off. I have some Wi-Fi stuff going on up here in the mountains, but I just wanted to kind of let you know the progress in the county coordinator role. It has been so valuable for many reasons, but as far as the RCs are concerned, we're just seeing innumerable benefits in the flow of information, communication, and networking. It's been really helpful with fortifying our fire safe councils and helping with the development of new fire safe councils, and really focus on a holistic approach to supporting countywide fire mitigation efforts and project development. We're broken up into 3 regions, Northern, Central, and Southern. I am Central California, Brittany is Southern California, and Mike Wilson, who was our Northern California regional coordinator, has moved on to another role in fire mitigation. So Brittany and I are kind of taking over Northern California in the interim. And so one of the major benefits for us with the county coordinators is the RCs are overseeing a huge territory. And so the county coordinators has been able to break down our regions and help us with creating networks inside your counties specifically, and really get the flow of communication going a lot smoother. And we're able to then turn around and help each of the county coordinators so much more with building out our regions. And I will pass it over to Brittany.
Sure. I think, just to accentuate what Brooke is saying, our job is to empower you as the county coordinators to do your job and to serve as your peer advisors. So if you need help with community outreach, what it takes, or what the big picture is regionally, if not statewide, we're here for just your resources to connect you with partners if you're having trouble doing that, or local fire safe councils. But we look to you to understand what's happening in your region, as Brooke was saying, because the state is so large that you're really filling an important role for us. So we just want to work alongside you, and whatever we can do to help you out, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brooke and Brittany. And I can't stress enough what a valuable resource our regional coordinators are. They are 2 of the hardest working ladies on our team. They're always available, and they really help to support you to make your projects a success. And I want to emphasize that everybody at the California Fire Safe Council is highly invested in making sure that your projects are successful and supporting you along the way. All right. Again, we will distribute these slides so that you have all of this contact info, but I just wanted to share our administrative contacts. Bruce Martin is our interim executive director. We have Lori Vance in business and operations officer, and then Felicia Dunn is our executive assistant. And then here are your county coordinator grant team contacts. We are all on the webinar and have introduced ourselves, but Amber is our clearinghouse manager. I oversee the CAL FIRE's Northern Region County Coordinator grantees. Nina oversees the Southern Region, and Sarah Niss is our administrative assistant, Excel guru extraordinaire, and team organizer. And then our programs and outreach team. So we have Jessica Martinez, our program director, and Becca Joyner, our programs and outreach manager. And then here are the contacts for Brooke and Brittany. We also have Laura Popiak, who is our communications and outreach coordinator, and Megan Kadich, who is our communications and outreach assistant. So everything you see on social media, everything that we share through email, our web page, that all goes through our communications team. Just some important dates for you to keep in mind. So the grant application period opened on October 3rd. Today is obviously our workshop or our webinar. The applications are due online by November 15th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Zoom grants will shut off the applications at midnight. You will not be able to submit. There really isn't a workaround for that. So please make sure all of your applications are in by that time. And then we anticipate making our preliminary award announcements sometime in December of 2022, and hopefully the projects will be able to begin in January of 2023. Those dates are subject to change with the holidays and everything that comes with that, but those are the dates that we are shooting for. Okay, so for part one of the webinar, we wanted to go over the County Coordinator Grant Program and eligibility for this grant. So to kick it off, I wanted to show you these two graphics. So the graphic on the right, the map on the right, shows where our 24 Northern Region County Coordinators are currently placed. We have 11 Southern Region County Coordinators as well, and then 23 counties remaining to fund. So the red outline on this map shows the CAL FIRE regions, which is how we broke up this grant program. So the Northern Region County Coordinators got started on their projects. The currently funded coordinators got started on their projects last November. So they are almost a full year in. The Southern Region County Coordinators just started last month. And then anybody that is in gray are the counties that are eligible to apply for this new state, what we're calling the statewide round of funding. So we currently have 35 in-place county coordinators, and we would love to ultimately have a county coordinator in every county in the state that wants one. So just some background on what our Northern Region County Coordinators have been able to accomplish so far. So this map on the left, if you can see the orange shading, those are all of the zip codes that our county coordinators have interacted with to date. So we collect this information as part of your quarterly progress reports, and then we're able to put it into a beautiful map so that you can really see that the impact that our county coordinators are having within their communities really mirrors where they are funded on the map on the right. So there are some areas with some gaps, and that's part of what this project is looking to fix. But for the most part, our county coordinators in place have actively engaged with many, many zip codes within their counties. So they've had touch points with over 1,000 wildfire mitigation groups, touch points with over 16,000 community members. They have helped to produce 125 educational products. They've hosted 375 events, and there are 73 people employed who are working actively on the county coordinator grant. I think those numbers really speak for themselves and for the amazing work that our 24 Northern Region County Coordinators have accomplished in less than a year. We pulled this graphic almost 2 months ago. So you can imagine that the numbers have increased substantially, and we're really excited to see what our Southern Region County Coordinators can do, and all of you as well, in the event that you're funded. So the primary purpose of the County Coordinator Program is to educate, encourage, and develop countywide collaboration and coordination among various wildfire mitigation groups operating within counties. So as Daniel kind of touched on, this grant really came about because we recognize that we, being the California Fire Safe Council and CAL FIRE, were not the best stewards of information relating to wildfire mitigation practitioners on the ground. It's very difficult to keep track of the many groups that are doing incredible work and the work that they are accomplishing. So the County Coordinator Program was put into place to help create sort of a countywide hub of information and a collection of projects, mitigation groups, and grants that are happening across the state. So that's just a little bit of background of how this came to be. The program funding, so this is an administrative grant. It covers administrative costs relevant to countywide coordination efforts. There is no match requirement for this project. Again, we are anticipating that the project will start in January of 2023. We are awarding grants of $175,000, and projects must be located in California. So to help outline the goal of the County Coordinator Project, we created this chart to show how we hope the County Coordinator will help to serve all fire mitigation groups by acting as a conduit between these groups, the important work they're doing, each other, and their county. So the County Coordinator's goal will be to help these groups to communicate with each other, strategize, and coordinate their wildfire mitigation projects and plans. So as you can see here, we really have the County Coordinator acting as an intermediary between both the county level and groups such as local and regional fire safe councils, fire agencies, firewise communities, RCDs, and HOAs. That is certainly not the extent of all wildfire practitioner groups that exist. We recognize that, but for the purpose of this slide, we just really wanted to show that the County Coordinator is really the hub of information for what all of these groups are doing and their projects. The objectives of the grant are to, number one, build a census of all active wildfire mitigation groups, contact points, collaboration efforts, and projects. Help to analyze gaps in countywide wildfire resiliency and preparedness and develop recommendations to fill those gaps. And also develop mechanisms to improve outreach and coordination efforts like group formation, funding plans, governance structures, and local planning efforts. So really helping to encourage all of these groups to stop working in silos and work in collaboration with each other. We definitely recognize that every county is very different. Every county is at a different place in this effort. We have some counties that are already doing this work and running like a well-oiled machine. We have other counties that are really just starting to have these wildfire mitigation conversations. So the grant is intentionally flexible to be able to fit the needs of each individual county. So some of the deliverables that will be asked of you over the course of the project are to participate in quarterly check-ins and meetings with CFSC staff, your regional coordinators, and other interested wildfire mitigation groups. So one of the requirements of the project is to check in quarterly with your grant specialist just to, discuss your project. It's really just a chance for you to have open communication with your grant specialist. We also encourage regular communication and check-in with your county coordinators. And then of course, the communication that you're doing with wildfire practitioners within your county. We are asking you to identify, summarize, and report on local groups, grants, and projects within each county at the onset of the grant period, within the grant period, and at the conclusion of the project. So one of the ways that we have helped to support our Northern Region County coordinators in this effort is to have them complete a pre and post survey. So of course, they've only completed the pre-survey to date. So at the start of their project, they completed a relatively extensive survey, just taking a census of what they know is happening in their county at the moment. So which groups they know are active, which projects they know are active, how often these groups are communicating with each other. And then of course, we'll take a survey at the end of the project and hopefully see some great growth as a result of the county coordinator program. We are asking you to track and monitor any collaborative efforts, tasks, meetings, workshops, and plans developed by the county coordinator during the project window. You will be required to submit quarterly programmatic and fiscal reports, as well as a final report. And then we're going to talk briefly about our GIS networking portal project. So that this is one of the deliverables of your grant. So this project encourages you to share data, which may include project maps, list of mitigation groups, and other items to be determined. So the GIS networking portal program is a new project. We just launched it with our Northern Region County coordinators earlier this month. So it's very much still in development and in flux, but it is intended to fill the information gaps between county coordinators and CFSC by giving county coordinators access to a shared ArcGIS portal where they can add and modify data related to wildfire mitigation practitioners within their county. So this is really step one of this project, is adding the wildfire practitioners' contact info, websites, addresses, etc. So the program will help county coordinators to achieve the primary goal of the project, which is to build a census of all active wildfire mitigation groups, contact points, collaboration efforts, and projects. All wildfire mitigation organization information added by coordinators into the portal will eventually populate on the California Fire Safe Council's website so that the public can access up-to-date information about wildfire practitioners within their county. In the future, we have big hopes and dreams for this project. It's really been a long time coming for us, but in the future, CFSC hopes to expand this program to include project boundaries, surveys, grants, and additional data within your county. So all county coordinators will have access to this portal. The information will be shared between the county coordinators and CFSC. This screenshot here just gives you a little bit of an idea of what the portal looks like. So it gives you the option and the opportunity to edit or add information about wildfire resiliency organizations within your county. So it's a really cool project. Again, it's just being launched in our Northern region now. We'll roll it out to Southern region and then ultimately roll it out to statewide. So just some grant suggested uses. I think whenever people see an administrative grant, there's often a lot of questions because they're sort of rare, which is what is so exciting about this grant. So the award funds can be used to complete any or a combination of these suggestions. First and foremost, hire or designate a county coordinator to implement your project. So one of the questions that came through on the chat just a few minutes ago from Chelsea was, let's see, can we hire a pre-existing consultant, or does this need to be a person or position? So we are very flexible in how you designate the county coordinator and who takes on this role. It can be, and we've seen examples from across the state so far. Some counties have made this a permanent county position. Some have contracted with an RCD or a fire safe council to fill the position. Sometimes the fire safe council or RCD is the actual grantee, and they have hired a new staff member. We don't really have any requirements for how you fill the role. It's really what works best within your county. We do just ask that there is a person who is designated as the county coordinator. So a lot of our counties are taking a team approach to this position. Humboldt County is an example. They have an entire team that's working on this project because Humboldt County is so big. There's so many wildfire practitioners within the county, but they have one person who is the contact point for the grant and who is the quote unquote county coordinator that we meet with regularly. The purpose of this is we really want that one person who is the touch point in the event that CAL FIRE or a funder or one of our regional coordinators reaches out and says, hey, who's the county coordinator for San Diego County? And we can point to Morgan and say, it's Morgan, here's her contact information. The other uses for the award funds are office space for your county coordinator. Cost of outreach and mailing materials. So if part of your project is to improve your outreach and marketing to help reach more individuals across your county, those materials are certainly welcome to be charged to the grant. Any technology or infrastructure needed to communicate, measure, or track groups and collaborative efforts. Any technology that's needed to set the county coordinator up. So if they need a computer or workstation, that is all able to be charged. Any cost to develop plans or recommendations for collaboration, and any costs to help you assist in new group formation within your county. For example, Solano County is a really good example of this. So Solano County is really new in the wildfire mitigation conversation, and as part of their county coordinator project, they're actually building out their first countywide fire safe council, which will then participate in the creation of their first countywide CWPP. So some really exciting stuff coming out of this project in Solano County. So eligibility, who is eligible to even apply for this project? I feel like most of you have sort of gotten this part ironed out, but I'm going to go over it anyway. So any counties that are not currently a recipient of a county coordinator grant are eligible to apply. So those would be those counties that were shaded in gray on the map that I showed at the very beginning. We did not want this to become a competitive grant program between multiple practitioners within each county. So the way we really wanted the county government, the county board of supervisors, to have the buy-in in this project. We wanted them to be committed to the project and to the goals of the project. So the way we did that is we decided to make the county the starting point to apply for the grant. So either the county could choose to apply directly, or a county office could choose to apply directly, or they could designate the funds to a nonprofit or public agency that they felt was best able to execute the project. So in the event that a county chose to do that, a letter of support would be required from the county board of supervisors for that designated nonprofit or agency. So that way we were only getting one application per county, and we knew that the county had buy-in on the project that we wanted. So part 2, I'm going to go ahead and pass this part off to Nina, and she will go over the application, selection, and award process.
Thanks, Julia. So as Julia said, we will now transition into the grant application process. So this slide here gives an overview of how the CFSC Grant Clearinghouse operates. So the recipient or the pass-through organization is the official grantee of the state agency. The subrecipient is the grantee of the pass-through organization, not the state agency. So the California Fire Safe Council is a pass-through organization, and CFFC receives a large master grant from the state agency and makes subgrants to eligible organizations to meet the objectives of the grant program. CFFC is legally responsible for the entire master grant term and must follow all of the grant regulations and requirements to meet program requirements of the state grant program. CFFC is also responsible for the entire subgranting process, so from the application to final reports. The subrecipient, as you can see on the slide here, which is all of you, if selected, would receive a subaward or a subgrant to complete the project or manage a program. In order to be eligible to receive the subaward, a subrecipient must have legal standing and meet the minimum requirements for receiving grant funds. So an example of beneficiaries for the CAL FIRE County Coordinators Grant Program would be local and regional fire mitigation groups that will be supported and approved by county coordinator grant activities and the community this position would serve. And next we'll get into the grant life cycle. So this diagram shows you the way that CFFC structures our grants into phases. If you are newer to the grant process, referring back to this graphic can help you stay oriented. So one of the first phases in this grant cycle is the application phase, and it has two main parts. The first part is preparation. So not only preparing your application, but also preparing your organization for the grant. It's important to review the program requirements, the application process, and all deadlines. Set a schedule for yourself to ensure you meet the deadlines, attend a grant application workshop like today. Also to evaluate your county's capacity to receive funds and manage a grant project. Also, it's important to create a detailed project plan so that you have a developed work plan with clearly defined tasks, and for this grant program to secure a letter of support from your county's Board of Supervisors if applicable. And the second part is submission. So once you have completed all the necessary preparation, you will submit all required documents, your budget, and the grant application package by the November 15th deadline. Next, so if your application project is approved, the next step will be the post-award phase, and this is when the grant takes place. Again, the success of the grant is based on completing two main goals. So first will be project implementation. It is important that you follow the project as it is outlined in your grant application. And remember that your project, if chosen and if approved, was funded based on your application, and you agreed to complete these objectives when signing a subaward agreement with CFSC. You should refer to your application throughout your project implementation to ensure that you are following the work plan and meeting the goals. However, we do understand that the situation within your county could change or adapt over time, and CFFC staff will be working closely with you and your county throughout the project timeline to help you make changes and adjustments to your project plans and goals as they arise. We are here to help you, and we want you and your county coordinator to succeed in this grant program. And so at this phase, it is now time to dig in and develop your final county coordinator job description, their goals and accountabilities, hire or designate them, complete your project tasks, monitor and track project accomplishments and progress, including collecting success stories from your project, and identifying any recommendations, suggestions, successes, and challenges to share with other future grantees. And at this phase, it'll also be when you are checking in quarterly with myself, Julia, or our regional coordinators. And in addition to these quarterly check-ins, you will also be required to submit quarterly progress and fiscal reports. And as mentioned, the second key goal of the post-award phase is proper grant management, which is just as important as implementing the project. So throughout the post-award phase, you will request incremental grant payments from CFFC. You will need to identify the work plan activities that you will pay for with the funds. Requests can be made often and should be for an amount that can be spent immediately upon receipt of funds from CFFC. Quarterly reporting is also a requirement of this grant. You will report on the progress of your grant project, comparing your actual accomplishments to the projections you identified in your work plan. You will also provide a brief narrative of the descriptions on your project, noting any successes, setbacks, and any changes that you worked on with your grant specialist. You will also report on the grant budget and provide a complete accounting of all expenditures over the course of the grant. All data reported in these progress reports must be true and accurate. CFFC uses this data to compile periodic reports to our funding agencies, like the graphic Julia showed you earlier with the zip codes we had previously collected. So be sure to check and double check reports. And an important thing to highlight is that all reports must be submitted to CFFC by their deadlines, and any failure to meet these reporting requirements may lead to withholding of any future grant payments during the post-award phase. In addition, grantees are expected to maintain organized, detailed, and complete grant files. Files should include all documentation relating to the grant, including source documentation for all expenditures. Source documentation includes, but is not limited to, invoices, receipts, timesheets, contracts, etc. Grant documents should be organized by each quarter as you submit them. And lastly, the closeout phase begins immediately following the grant term. All grants must be properly closed out with CFSC. And this process includes submitting a final progress report for your last quarter. In addition to this final progress report, a mandatory grant closeout report is also required, with an optional confidential questionnaire that you can submit. Any photos and success stories from your project that you've collected are also required for you to submit, and any examples of educational or outreach projects that you created using grant funds. So now we'll get into how to apply for this grant program using Zoom grants. So where you should start. On the CFSC website, and I'll drop a link into the chat here, you'll find this, there'll be a tab. You'll navigate to the grants and funding drop-down tab, and then you will select the apply for a grant link, which is the one I just dropped into the chat. And then another helpful link that will be helpful when submitting your application. Let me pull it up here. There we go. Will be the 2022 County Coordinator Statewide Grant Opportunity webpage, and this is also found under the Grant and Funding tab. On this page, you will find information about the grant program, the application handbook, FAQs, and a link to this workshop will be posted there as well. So to apply for a grant through the California Fire Safe Council, you will need to create a Zoom Grants account. You can do so by navigating to that link I just dropped into the chat, the apply for a grant page. If you scroll down to the bottom, there will be an additional web screen where you can log into Zoom Grants if you already have an account, or if you need to make an account, you will follow the instructions on the new Zoom Grants account screenshot you can see here on the slide. You also have the opportunity to preview any open grant programs that the CFSC is offering. And prior to submitting or even beginning an application, you must create this Zoom Grants account. And if you need any technical assistance with the Zoom Grants, you can follow this link here, and you can submit a help desk request. And to give a brief overview of the Zoom Grants, after you've created your Zoom Grants account, there are two different views that are available. You have your account profile and your applications. It's important that you complete your account profile before working on the application, because this information is sometimes automatically uploaded into your application, so your contact and your organization's contact information. And to start an application, you will follow the Open Programs tab within your Zoom Grants account, and you can see the 2022 CAL FIRE County Coordinators Grant Program available to you. By selecting this hyperlinked text, you can select and start a new application. And it is important to note that there is a link on the far right of the application page titled Find a Grant Writer. This link will take you outside of the California Fire Safe Council site, as it is hosted by Zoom Grants to assist users in the grant writing process. And this link is administered by Zoom Grants and is not affiliated or endorsed by CFSC. And so within your Zoom Grants account, under the My Account homepage, this will give you access to all of your applications that you have submitted or started with CFSC. So as you can see here on the slide, you'll have an overview of any incomplete applications submitted, archived, as well as your approved and declined applications, just so that you have them all for your records and reference. So within the 2022 CAL FIRE County Coordinator Grant Program, Statewide Grant Program, there are 5 grant application tabs. All 5 of these tabs must be completed by the November 15th deadline to successfully submit this grant application. The summary tab provides an overview of your application and the contact information submitted. And this applications tab is where you will navigate to, where you will complete the required application questions. Additionally, the budget tab is where you will provide a breakdown of your budget and describe these line items under the budget narrative section of this tab. Under the work plan tab is where you will describe the work plan for your application project, including any activities, timeline, responsible parties, and expected outcomes from each activity. And finally, you will submit all required documents under the Documents tab in this application. And now we're going to go over the required documents for both types of entities applying for this grant application. So first, we'll be discussing required documents for non-county entities. So as you can see here, there is a lot of information. And so for non-county entities, we'll just go down through the list, but an IRS determination letter is required, as well as organizational bylaws, a board of directors roster. And it's important to note here that this roster must be submitted on a Word or PDF document with the applying organization's letterhead, and it must include the board of directors contact information. 3 years or your most recent 990 or 990 EZ forms, copies of the last 5 years audit reports, if these are applicable to you, copies of reports of government agencies resulting from audits, examinations, or monitoring procedures performed in the last 3 years, a certificate of valid insurance, and for non-county entities, a letter of support from the County Board of Supervisors, and this must be submitted on the county letterhead. And for county entities, we still do require a board of directors roster with the same requirements on the organization's letterhead with the board of directors contact information, a certificate of valid insurance, copies of last 5 years audit reports, and a signed non-applicable documents memo. And there's a template available for this memo within your Zoom Grants account. And this document must be submitted on applying your county's letterhead. And we require this document to certify that you cannot submit the additional required documents that I previously mentioned. And so things you can do now to submit successfully. The County Board of Supervisors must determine their interest with who will submit the application, whether they will direct the application process and funds to another nonprofit or public agency. And there are several other steps you can take now to help you succeed. And you're already taking the first one by attending this webinar. If you are the designated nonprofit or public agency, please ensure that the county is willing to write you a letter of support to attach to your application, and let your Board of Supervisors know that you will need this letter prior to the November 15th deadline. If you are a local fire mitigation group and you are unsure if your county is interested in applying, but you feel this grant would be a benefit to your county, we encourage you to reach out to members of your Board of Supervisors to let them know what you have learned on this webinar today and why they should consider applying. You may direct them to us if they have any further questions, and we are also happy to assist you in connecting with your county. Make your schedule now. Set the due dates for yourself to keep you on track with the CFSC deadlines for this application, and get started on your application as soon as possible. Don't underestimate how much time the application can take. We also recommend lining up several proofreaders and reviewers to check your application for accuracy and ensure that it makes sense to someone who might not be familiar with the project. And of course, you can always reach out to Julia and I for help. Our contact information is here on the slides. Please feel free to reach out with any questions regarding the application project, any questions regarding the tabs I mentioned in the application, we are here to help and are happy to.
Great, thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Nina. So just a reminder of these important dates that we discussed at the beginning. And I just want to reiterate what we've said again and again. You know, I have been on the grantee side of writing applications for many years. And what I found with CFSC and working as a grant specialist is we are really quite unique in the level of support that we offer throughout the grant writing and project process. We are very hands-on. We really want you to succeed because your success means that we all have a more resilient state to live in. So please reach out to us, reach out to Nina and myself as you're writing your applications. If you have a question, if you're just not sure how something within your application will be perceived, feel free to call us, shoot us an email. We both work full-time on this grant project alone, so we are very much available to help support you and make sure that you submit the strongest application possible. So in staying connected with the California Fire Safe Council, we definitely encourage you to connect with us. Make sure that you are receiving information about our programs and our grants. I just threw in the web pages for the statewide grant application, as well as our Northern and Southern region active county coordinator grant program, so that you can go and take a look and see where the county coordinators are located. I encourage you to jump in on our monthly regional coordinator meetings. These meetings are located at this link here in the slide. They are hosted by Brooke and Brittany on a set date every month, and they're a great opportunity for you to connect with other wildfire practitioners. They often have great speakers and presenters on, and it's just a great connection point. We also quarterly offer these meetings on a statewide basis. So we bring everybody together from across the state, host a great educational guest speaker, sort of a lunch and learn opportunity, and then for a chance for you to learn what's happening across the state. Nina, if you could throw these links in the chat as we go, you might already be doing that. But this is our new virtual learning center. This was created by our incredible communications team, and it's really meant to be a one-stop shop for the latest resources from the California Fire Safe Council and wildfire practitioners across the state. There are tons of guides, pamphlets, publications, as well as success stories from some of our current grantees. We just launched this virtual learning center, so there's a lot more to come from it, but we definitely encourage you to check it out, utilize any of the resources that you need, and definitely look at our success stories, because there was a lot of time and work from both the grantee and from CFSC to put these together, and they are incredible. We also have our quarterly mitigation messenger. So we had a August 2022, a spring, and then August 2021 edition. I believe our newest edition is coming out soon. If you subscribe to our, that's coming next. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you will be subscribed to receive our mitigation messenger. This is a great quarterly newsletter with publications on our grant programs, our programs and outreach team, what they're up to, as well as guest editorials from fire safe councils and other practitioners across the state. We also have launched our brand new events calendar. So if you are a local fire safe council or practitioner of some sort and you have an event coming up, there is an events calendar submission. We would love to host your event on our website. We have our events there, and happy to take your submissions for your events as well. And then our newsletters and e-blasts. So here is where, if you go to our website, you will see a newsletter sign-up box. Scroll the whole way to the bottom. You just enter your email. We don't spam you with constant information. It's really just, we'll do regular bulletins with workshops that we're hosting, open grant programs, as well as our mitigation messenger. So I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter if you aren't already. This is really where you're going to get the most up-to-date information, especially regarding money that is available from CFSC. And now we are going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Thank you, Nina, for dropping all of that in there. I know that Morgan had chatted that she has some questions about allowable expenses. So if you want to kick off that conversation, Morgan, we can start our Q&A session.
Okay, awesome. Sorry. Hello. Thank you so much for the thorough presentation. I came armed with questions and you answered like over half my questions, so thanks. But concerning allowable expenses, I was wondering if specifically, does this opportunity fund travel? And then does it fund expenses for outreach events? Like we do monthly collaboration meetings. Some of them are in person. So I was wondering if food and venue is an allowable expense. And last, outreach events like pop-ups or printed materials for my pop-up or swag to give out. I hope that's not too many items, but
No, the answer is yes, 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 and yes. They are
Okay.
all allowable expenses. Just make sure as you're putting together your application, you give yourself plenty of flexibility in your supplies budget line item, your travel budget as well, mileage or travel to any of these collaborative in-person events, outreach events, that is all allowable. As I said, it is an administrative grant, so it's very flexible on the allowable expenses. We just ask that, you know, obviously it's included as accurately as possible in your budget with your application. If there is any budget modifications that need to happen throughout the course of the project, you can reach out to your grant specialist and we'll discuss those at that time. We're usually pretty flexible, but we do have to go through a formal modification process.
okay, awesome. Thank you. That was my other question. Thank you, guys.
And that modification process is for both the budget and the work plan. So if there are any changes to your work plan, if your county coordinator designee changes over the course of the project or something needs to be adjusted, we can do a modification on your work plan. You are going to be in touch with your grant specialist a lot throughout the course of this grant, probably more than with other grants that you might be managing. So there's always conversations there's always time to bring up those conversations and discuss if maybe things aren't going exactly according to your application timeline or work plan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then I was also curious on another note, for my proposal specifically, I really want to bolster our GIS efforts, and you guys have that tool that you want to use, but we would be a part of using if we were a grant recipient. But one of my goals that I want to do is to hash out boundary conflicts that we have, because we have so many fire safe councils. We have some boundary issues, and we want to bolster our relationship with our county fire to work on that GIS kind of issue, and make sure all our boundaries are fair and square. Is that a good deliverable for this grant, or would that be conflicting?
That would be a great deliverable for this grant. We would love that. We would love to see it, and we would also like to engage with you in a conversation about that process. So that is a goal of our GIS program long term, but it's also something that we acknowledged could be playing with fire a little bit and cause some just more in-depth conversations than what we're set up for right at this moment. But down the road, we would love to be able to have some good boundary maps for fire safe councils and other groups, just for the purpose of being able to get a better picture of the state, what's happening within the state, and where communities are underserved or not served at all by a fire safe council, Firewise community, or other group. So yes, absolutely, that would be a great deliverable for this grant. We would love if you would share that information and process with us as part of it. And then the way that our GIS portals are set up, we will be able to share information through your existing GIS work. So you won't have to like duplicate your efforts. We will be able to share that information through that private portal between CFSC and your RCD, should that be a project deliverable.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for confirming. And like with that, the last thing I'll say, I'm sorry to be dominating this, but I assume it's okay if I don't have the capacity to map myself. to get like a contracted person to help me with that, or a part-time employee at the RCD to help me with that, that would be fine if there's more than one person charging staff time to this grant.
Yes, yes, you can definitely take the team approach to this. There is a contractor line item as well. And then in the handbook is an explanation of what we ask for any contractor source documentation. So submitting, your invoice, if you are working with a contractor, if it's an existing RCD employee, they can just charge it to personnel, but just include all that in your budget.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Those are great questions. And I think probably questions that other people had as well. Very helpful. And then anybody else with questions? Brenna.
Hey there, just a question on the letter from the County Board of Supervisors and Support. Is there any flexibility in having a letter from the county administrative officer instead? And I ask because there's a process that we go through in Sutter County, and I'm sure other counties have the same process, but it takes time. And I'm not sure if we'll be able to meet the application deadline and have that letter with our package. So some grant opportunities that we've applied for in the past are we put in a substitute letter and then let the agency that's granting the money that we're working on getting the letter from the board. So basically like a letter of commitment.
If you wanted to submit that letter of commitment ahead of time, we have a little bit of flexibility with the November 15th deadline for your Board of Supervisors letter, in that after the application period closes, we have about a 2-week review committee period. If you were able to submit the substitute letter, we would need a Board of Supervisors letter though by at least the end of that review committee period before we make our announcements.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Chris.
I have 2 questions. You had mentioned the presentation that there was a template. Is that template for the letter of support that we need from our board of directors? Because I'm in these same timeline constraints that actually my board order is due by end of today.
Yes.
To get it in time for a November 8th approval at our next board meeting.
Yes, there is a template for the Board of Supervisors letter. You can use that exact language. It just has to be on their letterhead. That's the only change. Welcome to pull that right off of the website or right out of Zoom Grants and use that.
Okay. And my second question is about the kind of to expand off Morgan's question or comment about the supplies, the travel. So when we're trying to figure out what we're going to set aside for the supplies, travel, and other items that we'd be purchasing, to then break the other piece down to what the salary range would be. And if we went, I know I talked to you about this before, about the part-time versus full-time or contracted versus employee. So we need to identify then how many hours we would plan that person to work. Because if we're just looking at if we did a contracted person, I mean, are most of the agencies that are doing this, is it a full-time, or is it 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week? It just, there's a lot of flexibility, it seems like, in how do you divide up these, or what are most agencies doing to divide up the funds?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how much are you spending on supplies, materials, travel versus what the hourly rate is? And that really is going to be driven by, are they working 25 hours a week, or are they working 40 hours a week?
Yeah, so it is flexible, you're right. And I don't know that I could tell you what most counties are doing. Everybody's sort of doing it in a way that works for them. So some of the counties that have hired a contractor, the contractor is working part-time, 20, 30 hours a week. It really all depends on what is needed to meet the deliverables and meet the scope of the grant project. We don't have any preference if you think you can execute your subaward agreement on a 25 or 30 hour a week schedule, that is completely fine. So I do understand also the disparity in costs between counties. So probably in Contra Costa County, what you're going to need to pay somebody to take on this role is going to be maybe higher than in other counties. So you definitely need to take that into consideration. We had some counties, San Mateo is an example of this, that they put together their application, submitted it, started their project, and realized there's nobody in San Mateo County that's going to work for the rate that we designated in our application. And they came back to me and said, hey, we actually need to move money out of supplies and move it into personnel to be able to pay this person more, which was completely fine and completely understandable. So most of our counties have put the majority of their budget into personnel. As far as ballpark rates, Peggy, I do not have that information offhand. Like I said, it really varies. We have county coordinators in a place like San Mateo County, and then in a place like Modoc County, there's going to be it's just too variable.
Yeah, but that's good to know that there's some leeway there, because we'll just have to kind of play with the numbers. But I imagine that I'll just have to put a lower, since the ceiling's set on the amount, I'll just have to put a lower weekly hours that they're going to work. That instead of working 40 hours a week, they're probably only going to work 25 to get that hourly rate up to attract someone to apply for the position.
Yeah, and there is, one of the things that I will be upfront about that we ran into very early on in the northern region was just getting a person in place. It was a struggle. I think when that grant started in November, it was about the worst time in the history of the world to try to hire anybody. So we had counties that really struggled to get somebody into this role, and had to go back to the drawing board several times and reevaluate the rate, the hours. We are flexible, happy to work with you to make it happen. We had some counties that thought that this was going to be a county staffed position, and then they realized that the level of red tape to get an employee into place in the county was too much for an 18-month grant. So they went back to the drawing board and turned it into a contract position instead. So very flexible. We just want, you to get a county coordinator in place. So happy to work with you on that. Anne Marie.
I had to join late because of a meeting that ran over, so I apologize if my question has been already answered through your presentation. But our Fires Council takes a 12% admin fee of every grant. Is that allowed through this grant or not?
Nina, isn't 12% the cap on the indirect rate for this grant? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd be good.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Good question. Diane.
Hello. Two things. First thing is thank you for setting up that template, because we had basically taken the template, had it ready to go. So when the application period opened up, we just verified that it was the same as it was before. And we were able to submit that to our board right away for the next board meeting. So that was a huge, huge help. Thank you. And the other thing, kind of an answer to Chris's question, what our department is doing, we labeled that we will use an average of 30 hours per week committed to the county coordinators program. So that leaves a little bit of flexibility open, just make it a little bit general. So that's what we have planned to do. Other than that, Morgan asked a lot of questions and they were great. So that was good.
Yeah, thank you. I think it also depends on where your county is in this entire process as well. So if you have somebody at the county that's already doing this type of work and has been for a while, or you already sort of have a handle on the groups and projects within your county, the county coordinator would be able to work less hours to meet the project goals. If you're starting from complete scratch and have no idea what's happening within your county, it's probably going to be a more hours needed type of thing.
Exactly. And some weeks will be events and just different things going on. So there'll be a good amount of hours those weeks and less hours other weeks. So it'll kind of average out to that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Morgan.
Sorry, I don't want to dominate the space, but I just had a piece to offer. I'm in a position that is really similar to county coordinator. So that's why I'm applying, because it kind of funds what I already do. And I just wanted to offer like a little tidbit of what my job is like. And Brittany, actually, who's on this call, used to have my job. And I work 40 hours a week doing this work. And I think I could work more than 40 hours a week, just based on my county. So if anybody's interested in like seeing my RCD's job description for a similar job, I'd be happy to share it with anybody on the call when they decide to reach out to hire for a county coordinator. Just thought I would offer that.
That would be great. If you want to send that over to me, Morgan, I'm happy to distribute that. I think the more examples, the better. We do have a template job description within the applicant handbook that is available online. It's very much a template. We just put it together to try to help you wrap your minds around what we envision this position looking like. But again, it's going to be different for each county. So you're welcome to take our template, take bits and pieces out of it, use the whole thing. And then of course, if Morgan, if she can send me hers, that would be a great addition. Any other questions? Great. Well, you are certainly welcome to email us any questions that you think of after the fact. I don't see anything else in the chat that we didn't already address. I think we're good. Okay. Well, then we will give you back the rest of your day. We will be following up with the recording as well as the PowerPoint slides, and they will also be available online probably by next week. So everything will be ready to go on the statewide webpage by next week. And certainly reach out if you have questions in the meantime, and we're looking forward to seeing all your applications come through. Thank you, everyone.